On that note, hey guys, it's Lavetta.
And it's Miriam.
And this is the Notorious Women Podcast, a comedy podcast about some of history's most notorious women.
That's right. Hey.
I need that laugh. Thank you so much.
I'm
Miriam.
here for you.
And happy holidays. Happy Hanukkah.
Thank you. We're recording on the last night of Hanukkah. Okay.
Did you get anything other than socks?
I got nothing. So Hanukkah adults get zero.
Did you give out socks?
I gave out socks. And my kids, it's so funny because they appreciate it as much as I appreciated it when I was a child. But we also they're getting their bigger gift tonight. But it's not that big because we're about to celebrate Christmas. And I'm like, little Jewish boys and girls who also celebrate Christmas don't get everything at Hanukkah. And they're like, cousins got iPhones for Hanukkah. And I was like, yeah, they don't celebrate Christmas. Also, you're not getting an iPhone.
Oh,
Hell
gotcha.
no.
There's got to be a joke in there about that on some TV show.
Like somewhere.
Yeah.
It's probably already there.
Funny.
I probably just stole it. I have no idea. You ever do that where you're like, I just came up with the most brilliant idea and it's like been in the history books forever. Like, actually,
like,
that was very...
Yeah, common thing from 1975. Like it was in that movie. And you're like,
you mean that joke from Moonstruck? Yeah, you didn't write that. Okay.
I know. Well, it's the holiday season and we are, most people are in a good mood. I think that's why people love this time of year because people tend to be in a good mood. Like there's cheerful decorations everywhere. There's sweets everywhere. There's people are in a good mood. There's cheerful music. And I think that's why people are in a good mood, So,
so I ever tell you what happened to me at the doctor? So I usually get my checkups like October-ish, my annuals, right? And then something happened. Life happened one year. It was about 5 years ago. And I didn't get in until like January. Fine, like January 23rd or whatever. And it was like early. It was like January 4th or something. And the doctor's looking at my chart. And he's like, it's okay. Because I'm like very weight neutral human, right? You gained like 12 pounds from last year. Did anything happen? And I'm like, I'm also like, I am a human and that does not define me. And how dare you? But also I have all these feelings because I grew up in the 80s, and I was just like, I'm fine. And then I come home and I tell my husband because I feel like, like as women, when we gain weight, we feel guilty, which is so stupid, so fucking stupid. So I'm, like I'm admitting shit to a man who sees me literally every day in all kinds of ways. And he goes, it's January. When do you normally get these checkups? And I was like, October. He's like, so what happens between October and January? And I was like, you're right. Yeah, no, that's what happened.
This is the kind of husband that you need, or kind of partner, whatever your sexual orientation, or
whatever.
Whatever. This kind of partner you need because. You're right. Like he's so right. Like basically beginning in October, there's like a 3-month period where you're gorging yourself on sweets.
First, all the candy. Then it's like all the turkey, but really it's all the stuffing, right? Let's not even talk about those pies. Okay. And then how many mocha hot chocolates can I drink? A lot. Like a lot. With whipped cream and the chocolate sprinkles because I'm not dead, right? Here we are. I am celebrating. There are bright lights everywhere. Jingle bells.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So you're stuffing. It's a 3-month period of feasting, nonstop, so that is so true because you wouldn't think of that.
Yeah. No, I was like, oh my God, what did I do? Did I do anything different? No, I did nothing different.
That is so funny. Well, I think let's get started.
Okay.
This week I am first, and I actually did it. It's not necessarily a theme, but I thought it might be fun to do something that's kind of related to, December, the holidays.
Okay. I hope we didn't pick the same person. Okay.
Oh my God. Oh, I hope not either.
Let's find out.
I thought, well, you know how I feel like I'm like, should I go with crime or should I go with, because I love a murderess.
You do.
But then I thought, let's try something different. So my notorious woman this week is Catherine Dickens.
Oh, no, but also a Catherine. Never mind. I just gave away a little bit of mine. Catherine Dickens. Okay.
Charles Dickens' wife.
I am so excited to learn about her. I didn't even know he was married. Okay, let's find out who really wrote all the books. Cool.
It's fascinating because I thought, Dickens, and I thought female authors, and around wrote Christmas, and then Christmas Carol is like the thing that we all, I watch all the versions. I love all the versions.
Muppets, my current favorite, but yes. Go on.
Yes, all of them. I just love, and I still get teary-eyed on all of them. So, but so my main sources today come from a BBC article by Lucinda Hawksley, a Bates magazine article, and a YouTube channel called Brightside, among other sources. But that's my main source. These are my main sources today. So, Catherine Dickens was born Catherine Thompson Hogarth to George Hogarth. I'm sorry.
I think Hogarth. Because I am
Catherine
British.
Dickens.
But so are you. Okay.
I know. I have to do pronounce this right. I have to do the yes. So Catherine was born. Catherine Kate is her nickname. Thompson Hogarth to George Hogarth, a lawyer turned journalist and later music critic, and Georgina Hogarth. So she's born to George and a Georgina. Isn't that something?
Oh my God, I love that so much.
I know. And she was born on May 19th, 1815 in Edinburgh, Scotland. So she's Scottish.
Ooh, I love Scotland.
We love Scotland. We love the Scots.
Yes.
Now, when she was about 9, the family moved to England. So they're UK based, but they moved from Scotland to England. Now, I couldn't find much on her mother, but that may be because apparently Georgina was busy having lots and lots of kids because Catherine was the eldest of 10 children.
Oh, ow. Like, no. Like how many UTIs do you just overcome without antibiotics? I don't understand.
I mean,
damn.
Yeah. So
I have a theory that they didn't wear underwear the same way that we did. Anyways, go on.
Yeah, Now keep that in mind. Remember that she's the eldest of 10 children, so that's going to be important a little bit later. Now, it seems that the family they were like well off, or at least solidly middle class. So she would have had, when she came of age, many offers of marriage, many prospects as the eldest daughter of a well-off family. And she literally came of age, like out in society, 18, at the beginning of the Victorian era. So like her coming out, becoming a young woman coincided with the beginning of the Victorian era. So it's really interesting. Now in 1834, while her father was working as the editor of a newspaper, she met a young man by the name of Charles Dickens, who was a young journalist
I've heard of him.
at the newspaper.
He sounds familiar. Anyways.
Yes. Now, Now, Catherine, by all accounts, was an attractive 19-year-old woman at the time, young woman. And again, she was from a decent family, a good family, quote unquote. So when Charles Dickens invited her to his 23rd birthday party that year, she accepted. Now, she had met him on a couple occasions, obviously, but nothing really clicked. But it wasn't until she spent time with him at this birthday party that she was like, oh, he's actually, pretty good. He's
all right. Was he cute?
So much so.
I want to know.
You have to find pictures of Charles Dickens. I don't know if he's considered attractive. I don't think he's considered like unattractive for that age and, later in life. He was a very bit of a workaholic. But so a year after this birthday party, the two became engaged in 1835.
Okay.
And were married the following year on April 2nd, 1836. So she would be 21.
That was like a long time between like hanging, engagement, and then marriage. Like in those days, it's like you're pretty and then you're married, like.
Well, again, I bet she had a lot of prospects because she's very cute. When you see her picture, you're like, oh yeah, she's very cute. And So I would imagine he had some competition. Also, as it's well known, or maybe it's not for people who are not Dickensian fans, he came from a poor background, and his father was famously put into debtor's prison, because this is when they put you in prison for having debts.
Listen, do you not want the Shonda Rhimes version of this courtship on your Netflix account right now? Because I do. I know. Right?
I mean, who knows? Obviously Bridgerton is set in the era before this. I know, but
I still,
It's also interesting because he came from a poor background, and it was, there's a lot of turmoil. His father was in the home and not in the home. He also was attracted to the fact that Catherine came from, quote unquote, a good, stable home.
Yeah.
And so he basically married above his station also. And she was pretty. And by all accounts, she was very charming, intelligent. So he really hit the jackpot with Catherine. Now, they set up a home in Bloomsbury and went on to have 10 children.
Damn.
Over the next 15 years.
I don't know. Because what happens is that, this it's messy down there, and then you give birth and then you gotta recover.
Well, I mean, remember, Catherine comes from a family of 10 children. And so Charles also was attracted to her because she came from a stable, happy home, and he really wanted that because he didn't have that as a child. So this happened over the next 15 years, which reportedly also included 2 miscarriages. So she would have 12 pregnancies over this period, 15 years. Now, during that period, in the beginning of their marriage, Charles was still a struggling writer. And he wrote that, but he was so happy in the earlier part of their marriage. He wrote that even if he were to become rich and famous, he would never be as happy as he was in the small flat that he and Catherine shared in the beginning of their marriage.
Oh my God, that's so romantic. I really want to watch this miniseries. Go on.
Yes. Now, during this time, the earliest part of their marriage, Catherine's younger sister, Mary, moved into the home to help her with the children when the children started coming. But it was also kind of unusual for a sister to move into a newly married, in with her newly married sister and her brother-in-law. But they were a very close family. Catherine comes from a very close family.
Yeah.
And so reportedly, Charles became very attached to Mary. So when she died in his arms after a brief illness the following year, he took it really hard. So maybe she's like a little kiddo sister and but he took it really hard, apparently. And she ended up becoming a character in many of his books. And actually her actual death is fictionalized as the death of Little Nell, the character in the 1841 novel, The Old Curiosity Shop.
I've never read it.
That's how much. I think that was obviously one of his earlier ones, but now in 1842, so they're in 5 years into their marriage. Another one of Catherine's younger sisters, Georgina, moved in when Charles and Catherine sailed to the United States. So Georgina moved in, who's named obviously after her mother, to look after the children, while the couple traveled. So, sisters helping her out, and she probably was like, oh, I can get out and while they're gone and have a place to myself. Now, again, still in the earlier part of his career, around this time is when his career started to bear some fruit. Okay. And Catherine, they were still happy, and Catherine was a very supportive wife. She traveled with him, and during this trip to America, it's a long journey. All the reports of her that she was just lovely, like I said, charming, smart, just kind, all the things. She was also she performed in some of his productions, and she performed in a production of his play Every Man and His Humor, where she had a minor role where she fell through a trap door.
That's awesome. Okay, she's also an actress. I love her.
She's also an actress. So he met a creative match. Again, she's by all accounts, above his, like he married up basically.
In every way.
And at this time, he told other people that he thought that she was intelligent, charming, and, quote, his best half, end quote. Now, Catherine also had creative endeavors in addition to acting. In 1851, she used the pen name of Lady Maria Clutterbuck.
What?
It's funny to me.
Well, I love that name. Clutterbuck. Yes. Mrs. Clutterbuck. Is that you, darling? I will stop now because if I start, I won't stop. Go on.
That is a hilarious name, Clutterbuck. I'd be Clutterbutt, anyway, because we're Americans and we're crass.
And we're, it's facts.
Now, under the pen name, she published a cookbook basically called What Shall We Have for Dinner? What shall we have for dinner? Satisfactorily answered by numerous bills of fare from the 2 to 18 persons. Like, that's so English. That's so British. It basically contains suggested menus for meals varying in different complexities, and then one-of-a-kind meals. It basically served as sort of like a guidebook for young wives.
I think we should have a dinner party where we make things from that book.
Oh, my God. And can we dress up in Victorian?
Yes, we have to, obviously.
Because we're dorks.
We're next level dork. Yep.
Now, it also included household advice on household tasks and producing menus for up to 18 people. So basically, she was the first Mrs. Beeton, a decade and a half before the actual Mrs. Beeton published the now iconic cookbook. So Mrs. Beeton is like I guess she would be the UK's version of Julia Child, but she's much more of like a household manager kind of thing. So even more, it's not just cooking. Mrs. Beeton is known as like a household manager kind of thing.
Okay.
Now, this book apparently, so this predated the Mrs. Beeton cookbook, but it was very popular. Catherine's book. Okay. It went through several editions until 1860. So that must have been very, very satisfying. You married to a writer and then you write your own thing in your own lane and it's so successful. And she was only 36 in 1851 when it was published. But around this time, that same year, unfortunately, she also had a nervous breakdown after the death of one of her children, aged 7 months. So she's having a time, but
I bet you like their definition of nervous breakdown was like our definition of sad.
Yeah.
Right? Like reasonably sad.
I basically think that she went through postpartum. That's what I think was what was happening.
Severely.
And now this is a very tragic thing. It's tragic, right? But as bad as that is, it's about to get worse for poor Catherine because her once wonderful husband decided to, he took a note of that. He took note of how sad that she had the sads. And he started to grow resentful. Maybe perhaps he started growing resentful of her before that. Who knows? But he began to criticize her sharply and for being increasingly incompetent, an incompetent mother and a housekeeper.
What? Okay, Charles, that is not okay.
Oh, no. He didn't even stop there. He also blamed her for the birth of their 10 children because he said it was causing him, that's what he would eventually do, it was causing him financial strain.
Wow. Does he know what happens when his penis goes in her vagina or no? Like maybe he doesn't. Because it's his penis going into her vagina.
No, the woman needs to take the penis and she also needs to make sure that a baby only comes out and it needs to be a male heir. When the man is ready. Right. That she has control over all of
Obviously.
that.
Yeah. That makes
now,
sense.
It's not just jerky behavior. The thing is, and he had legitimate concerns because, again, remember, he comes from a childhood marred with financial insecurity.
Right.
His father was actually in debtor's prison. He's written about it. He's struggling because even though he's very successful, he wasn't making the kind of money, at least during this time, that you think he should because of copyright infringement, particularly in America. So he wasn't getting the royalties. We were literally just ripping Charles Dickens off. I wouldn't. Probably my ancestors was not, but Americans were.
Yeah, feels
so
right. We weren't in America yet, so we can't blame my people. Okay. Thank you.
And children are expensive, even during the Victorian era. So reportedly, he had hoped to have no more than 4 children. 5 at the most.
Does he know how basic biology works? No.
I don't know, because apparently he started blaming her because he said, you're just having all these children because you come from a big family. But it's like, no, that's also part of the reason that you were attracted to her, that she came from a big, like, close-knit family.
Right.
Like... But again, I don't know. Like you said, does he not know how biology works? But apparently after the 5th child, I don't know what this was about. You know, marriages, every relationship is different. But like apparently after the 5th child, he decided that he had enough. So he reportedly ordered them to be separated and put a bookcase in between them in bed. Or maybe there were 2 beds at the time. I don't know.
Okay. What Charles Dickens there.
Can you imagine?
Do you hear what I did there?
Yeah,
because he's a dick. I like making dick jokes, clearly.
Because we've already established you're a 10-year-old boy inside.
That's true.
Because like you said, he's a smart, intelligent man. Does he not know if you keep screwing your wife, you're going to have children?
I don't understand. He's one of the greatest brains of a generation.
He's acting like she's raping him. It seems like it's like, dude, I'm sure your wife even then, like, but imagine going through this, starting out in such a great place. You're a young, attractive couple, then there's some success, and then you're being fruitful, you're bearing and being fruitful, and your husband starts to resent you while you're also going through postpartum, probably after every child, and certainly after the miscarriages.
Because a woman is there to lighten the mood, to bring that creative spark. And when you have a person and not just that creative spark, you're very disappointed.
Yes.
I don't know.
It's
right.
But it's you know, I think this is a very common thing in relationships. Like men, I heard somebody once say that men fall in love hoping that the woman will never change. And women often fall in love hoping that the man does change. You know, I don't know how true that is, but like, she's not going to be the same woman at 21 with no children, no responsibility that she is at 37 with children and responsibility. Like, she's not going to be light and like, you know, charming and like just talking, you know, not a real woman, like a flighty woman might be. And then you resent her for being flighty. So it's just like,
right.
But I just don't understand like where this, like it sounds like he started to resent her for for being the exact same thing, for the exact thing that made him fall in love with her to begin with. So she couldn't win because,
So now there's a bookcase between them.
So there's a bookcase between them, but he went a step further. He reportedly tried to have her falsely diagnosed as mentally ill in order to commit her to an asylum.
Okay, so now I want to throw him off a cliff, and I feel really weird about that because I do like his books.
Yeah, this is going to be a hard one because I'm a big Dickens fan too.
Yeah, this hurts.
Yeah, so now you say like, what's going on? What's going on? Like, what's going on, right? You think some of this foolishness, like this is just foolishness, and you think there must be another woman somewhere. Well,
yes, that's what I think.
You would be right. You would be right. Because, and apparently 1858, Catherine reportedly accidentally received a bracelet meant for Charles's mistress, a woman by the name of Ellen Ternan, who was an 18-year-old actress.
Of course she was.
Now,
oh my
God,
God.
I like a murderess. You know how I like a murderess.
I do, yeah.
This is where Catherine. This is what Catherine should have got out of her machete,
right?
And started lopping off like appendages. I'm just
like a finger here and a toe there. We don't have to murder him. He's very bright, but
So, because now she's in her 40s, and
oh God, well that's terrible. How dare she?
How dare she grow older every year that she's on the earth?
Ridiculous.
It's one thing to have a mistress, but it's a whole nother thing and now again, remember, he's 4 years older than Catherine. For your husband in his late 40s to be reportedly, allegedly, hooking up with an 18-year-old, because at this point he's wildly successful. There's plays, so he met her during one of the productions of his plays. There's books. Yes. He is wildly successful, and now he's burdened with this burdensome wife who is sad because she lost 2 kids and tired because she has 10 kids, his kids.
Lord.
How dare she? But also it's even worse than that, because instead of making excuses like, baby, it wasn't me, like it's a mistake, he tried to gaslight Catherine.
That's fun.
Yeah. So Catherine filed for separation.
Yes, girl.
So she was like, I'm out of here, motherfucker. Like, I've given you the best years of my life. And we all know that you married up. Let's not forget that. Okay. So now you done got your little books you selling and you think you the man, but you know what? You older than me. So you think that little 18-year-old girl love you for you? Okay. Of course she's light and fluffy and fantastic and entertaining because she does not have 10 fucking children and she's not in her 40s in 1858. So
Jesus Christ.
Now, Catherine files for divorce because she's like, we're not doing this. And when she filed for divorce, she actually moved out. And so the rumors of this affair started circulating. And again, this is the Victorian age. So propriety is very, very important, especially with somebody so public like him.
Yes.
And so rumors started swirling about the affair with Ellen, but also that he had many other affairs in addition to allegedly with Ellen, but also possibly with her sister, Georgina.
You know what? He's a piece of shit. I'll say it. Someone's got to.
Now, Charles is like, wasn't me. I ain't do none of this. Y'all tripping, right? So,
verbatim, yes.
Deny. That's exactly what he said. I ain't do none of this. Y'all tripping. I've been framed. But his boy, William Makepeace Thackeray, was like, nah, it ain't only Ellen. Nah, it ain't it's not his sister. No, he said it was only Ellen. So William was like, no, I got this, bro. He would never have an affair with Georgina. Now that Ellen chick, that's him.
Yeah.
That's him. That's his side piece. And Charles, when he found out, was like, say less, motherfucker. Why you out here putting me on blast? Stop snitching.
You know what? We need more men to stand up. Thank you, William Makepeace Thackeray.
Like, no, I think William was like probably from a well-off family, so he wasn't like. He didn't know how to read the room, and he's a man in Victorian
Well, he probably
England.
Was like, yes, what's wrong with that? Of course.
What's wrong
just
with that?
one
No.
side piece. No big deal.
Yes, let me put the record straight. It's just one. Not his wife. He thought he was defending him like, I got you, boy. And he's like, hey, motherfucker, why you put me on blast? So Charles was livid and ended their relationship because of the snitching. So now after the separation, Catherine moved to a property, Gloucester Crescent in Camden Town, with Charles Jr., while Charles, along with her sister Georgina, stayed at the house.
Okay.
So it does sound suspicious as fuck. Okay.
They definitely had sex. Yeah. Okay.
Well, there's
allegedly definitely had sex.
Allegedly.
Okay.
Well, there's that, but also in Victorian times, wives had no right
That's true.
So most of the children legally had to stay with their father. This is why voting matters, people. This is why voting for people who believe women should have equal rights is an important thing. So, but also in Victorian time, the idea of the scandal would be, he would be canceled, basically, like really canceled, because it was known that men would step out on their wives, but you can't be flaunting your piece around and you can't make it. You got to be more discreet, basically.
Yep. You got to fake it.
Okay. So again, Charles Jr., his namesake, was like, I'm going to go with my mama, because apparently he's also of age. Boy. So he's like, I'm going to be with my mother. And but the other children, but along with her sister, stayed with Charles. I don't know, is it because she stayed for the money? Or like, is she like, you need to suck it up? This is what wives go through. Like, that's just fascinating to me that she stayed.
That's weird.
At the home. Or if it's just like, well, I'm going to stay here and look after the children.
Maybe she felt that the kids needed looking after and she was helping her sister. But I have no idea. Yeah. I absolutely think they had sex.
And one in my research, I wasn't able to find it. I'm not sure they did have sex. I actually think I'm going to push back on that a little bit just for what comes later. But yeah. So now again, to be labeled an adulterer at this time was just not in his best interest. So I'm sure he had a lot of pressure. Nowadays famous people have like teams of people. He had the Victorian equivalent of teams, and they were like, you need to fix this motherfucker. So, but he also was like, I'm innocent. That girl just is, she's just an actress. Like, so he used his strengths. He's a writer. He's, so he published an article in his journal called Household Words, denying the rumors about the separation while neither articulating them nor clarifying the situation. Basically, nothing to see here. So, now when he declared that he had been only, that he had only had Georgina stay at the house to keep the family together. And also he said publicly that basically Georgina had become the real mother of the children because Catherine was incompetent.
What a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But honestly, as famous and as beloved as his works were, the public was like, you sure about that player? That sounds suspicious as fuck. Like,
public's right.
Yeah. Now, because of this and the optics of having your wife's sister staying in your house, he it didn't, that article that he wrote for Household Words, his journal, it didn't clear things up. People were like, yeah, sure. People were like, that's basically like, okay, all right, sure. Sure, right.
That's like vague booking now, that's just like everything's fine.
Well, he basically, but he didn't stop there. He was like, well, I want it published in because again, we don't have the internet. So it's all about newspapers. Right. And so he was like going around and getting other people to publish a version of what he had published in Household Words. And he even approached his publishers, Bradbury and Evans. They refused to publish it in Punch because they were like, this is a humorous periodical and my name is Bennett and we ain't in it. Okay. Like, basically they're like, don't be bringing that over here. Okay. And he was furious. So he actually cut ties with them.
Okay. Bye.
But because he's a man, Victorian era, and he's very rich and he's the famous one, even though again, he had married up in his eyes. Yeah. But the tables, the power dynamics had shifted within their relationship. Eventually, because he kept saying what he was saying, it worked. He was the highly regarded writer and he was the public figure. So eventually it worked. Now, according to Lillian Nadar, an English professor and author of Catherine's biography, The Other Dickens, A Life of Catherine Hogarth, Charles Dickens, she writes in her book, The Other Dickens, quote, Charles Dickens has shaped the language of her story, and he told a lot of lies about her, end quote. For a long time, the narrative that she was hysterical, she was albatross of a wife, a nagging wife, jealous, and was believed by historians because now we know the truth because we actually are trying to get at the truth. It's not revisionist history. It's not lies. This is actually the truth. Many historians now believe that by wielding the power of his pen, he alleged that Catherine was mentally unbalanced and an unfit wife and mother only because he wanted to take up with a younger woman. And it's a tale as old as time. He traded her in for a newer model, basically. But he couldn't really do that like outright in this time. So he had to be slick about it.
Right.
You know, and that's why, and back then.
Manipulative and gaslighting and all that shit.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's why he was trying to get her committed is insane so he can divorce her and marry someone else.
Like, he wrote Scrooge. Like, he created that character, but it turns out, like, a little self-reflection and wrote it down, you know?
Yeah. Now, for those listeners who might be younger, I just want to put things in perspective and in context. He was the most famous writer of his time during this time. He had already written Oliver Twist and A Christmas Carol. So he was massively successful. So
do you know what he needed?
Imagine, what did he need?
He needed 3 ghosts to visit him over the course of a night. Okay. Went from the past, wherein he met his wife, and he loved her so. And then see what her life is like now. And then the future, right? Where he'll die a fiery death if he doesn't stop fucking it up.
No,
you know?
The future to see where his young hot thing becomes the same shrew of a wife because she's gotten older.
Okay.
Or she's a shrew of a wife and she wants to get rid of him for a younger man.
Right.
Like, you know, because they take his money. So now after this, so this separation, poor Catherine, I can only imagine how heartbroken she was. Like, this is devastating. Like, the man you loved is now turned into this horrible, like, you know, he's probably verbally abusive. Like, and then he has all the money and all the power, and he probably took all the friends. You know, all the friends followed him.
She has one kid with her, right?
She has one kid with her at this point, right? Now, after this, he would go on to publish A Tale of Two Cities and Great Expectations.
Yeah, those are good.
Yeah, so his rewriting of the separation and the couple's marriage would shape how Catherine would be seen up until her death in 1879 and in the following decades. She was after that he was successful in painting her this way. She was often ridiculed for being fat, as well as a bunch of other misogynistic accusations that most women were subjected to in their lives. Yeah, I'm fat because I popped out 12 children.
Listen.
Or at least 10.
You want what? Look in a mirror, you motherfucker. You want to go there? Like, seriously.
Yeah.
Okay.
So ultimately,
at least I created literal life. Okay.
Literal life. So ultimately, it became that he had to separate from her because she was an alcoholic. She was not. Like, she was so unpleasant and a shrew of a wife. And this followed her basically into her death in 1879. Now, Charles had little, so after the separation, they had little correspondences. So it's basically like she moved out and they never saw each other again. But on her deathbed in 1879, she gave a collection of letters she had received from Charles when, during their relationship, to her daughter, Kate, telling her to, quote, "Give these to the British Museum that the world may know Charles loved me once." And, and to correct the historical record. Yeah. So, because there's still love there, even though this man turns into a monster, like, because you're remembering how he was in the early days. And, but I mean, she did get the last laugh because she actually outlived him. So
yes.
She died. So Catherine Dickens died on November 22nd, 1879 at the age of 64. But she outlived him by 9 years. He died in 1870. I didn't even get into the particulars of him because this is about Catherine Dickens.
Nah, I don't care about him.
And she was buried in Highgate Cemetery in London with her infant daughter, Dora, who had died in 1851, age 7 months. Now, it's worth noting that even after the separation, Charles denied the affair with Ellen, the young woman, but the two would be seen traveling together in the decades after the separation. And on his deathbed, he actually settled an annuity on Ellen Ternan, which made her financially independent. And also in his will, he left an inheritance to Georgina, his wife's sister, who he called, quote, who he called his, quote, best and truest friend, who he left about $1 million, in today's money, about $1 million to.
Jesus. I mean, wow.
It is now a little bit, there is a little justice. So let me just wrap this up really quickly. Now, after her death, Catherine Dickens was the subject of since her death, the subject of a 60-minute BBC 2 documentary called Mrs. Dickens' Family Christmas. It was a broadcast on December 30th, 2011, and it was performed and presented by Sue Perkins. And it looked at the marriage of the marriage of Charles and Catherine Dickens through Catherine's eyes. Also in 1976, there was a series called Dickens of London, where Catherine Dickens was portrayed by Adrian Burgess. And then a film in 2013 called The Invisible Woman. She was portrayed by an actress called Joanna Scanlon. And in 2017, in the film The Man Who Invented Christmas, she was portrayed by Morfydd Clark. But this is the sweet, sweet, sweet thing. This is why following history is important. In 2022, so just last year, there was an exhibition called The Other Dickens at London's Dickens Museum, Charles Dickens Museum, and it basically has restored Catherine. And this is why we know all of this now. It has restored her reputation, and it was done by their great-great-great-granddaughter.
Good. Yes.
So it's done by Catherine and Charles's great-great-great-granddaughter, her third great-granddaughter. And she has her own conclusions because she has family records. She's gone through the letters and all this other stuff. So she has her own conclusions about what happened. And so in a 2022 BBC article, she wrote, quote, while writing a biography of their artist daughter, Katie. So she was writing about her other family, so just her great-great-grandmother.
Right.
I came to believe that the couple's marriage ended for understandable reasons. It was put under unexpected and tolerable pressure by the rapidity of Charles Dickens' ascent to his previously unthought of levels of celebrity. When the couple met, Charles put Catherine on a pedestal. His childhood was scarred by poverty and the shadow of debtor's prison. In contrast, Catherine came from a comfortable, happy middle-class family. I believe Charles wanted to emulate that. He wanted a wife and a mother who would give his children stability and a carefree home. Catherine became his ideal woman. At the start of their marriage, Catherine was her husband's social and financial superior, but within a very short time, he had gone from being a journalist working for her father to a man so famous that his works were read by Queen Victoria.
Same.
As the wife of such a star, Catherine began to be overlooked. Meanwhile, she was as happy. She was just as happy as her husband's in the beginning for his success in the beginning. But after multiple pregnancies, some of which she barely recovered before getting pregnant again, they began to take their toll on her health, her energy, and her marriage, end quote. Now, she also goes on to say that, quote, for more than a century, Catherine has become marginalized and misremembered as a dull, frumpy wife. But the real story of Catherine is that of a fun-loving young woman who, as the wife of an international celebrity, traveled widely and had the opportunity to see and experience things that most women of her era and social status did not, end quote. Basically, and this is to all just sum it all up, basically, he started to smell his own hype. And as she had these children, instead of being like, oh my God, empathizing with her plight. And again, they didn't understand postpartum depression back then. She was also burdened with the adult responsibilities of running an ever increasing bigger household, as well as like her husband acting brand new on her, basically, and thinking he should have access to step out on her. And then basically it's like, why are you so fat? Why are you so sad? Why are you so da da da? It's like, because I've had 10 children and 2 miscarriages.
I want to punch him in the face. That's what I want to do. Because
he basically just wanted to get rid of that. You know, the ball. He wanted to get rid of the old ball and chain. You know, and I say, get the fuck out of here, Charles Dickens. Get the fuck out of here. So
Charles,
that is Catherine Dickens. Charles Dickens. That's Catherine Dickens.
That is fascinating. Thank you for her.
Yeah. Yes, it's fascinating because you don't know. Like I said, I'm like many people, I'm a big Dickens fan, but the fact that but that's also that battle that we're having in the modern world. Like, how do you separate the artist from the art?
I mean, because there's so much like
empathy in Oliver Twist.
Be honest with your, like, that was good and necessary. Charles Dickens changed the game. Like, Charles Dickens called it out and they changed laws, right? Yeah. So, like, that's necessary and I'm grateful for that. But I also think he's a dick. And gonna make that joke all day.
Oh, God, Dick. Maybe that should be the title of the episode. What in the Dick-ens?
Ends. Oh, that's good. Ends. I like it. It was good. Yeah, maybe we should keep it.
Yeah.
All right. You ready for more Christmas fun? Ready.
Yes. Who's your notorious woman this week?
So you were thinking like Dickens and Christmas Carol and all that. And I was thinking like, who's Mrs. Claus? That's where I went. Like, you know how there's like this idea where you really?
Yeah.
And so I found her. So, well, it turns out because, of the magic of Christmas, she didn't write much down. So it's hard for me to find the actual Mrs. Claus. You understand? So as close as I could get was a woman named Katherine Lee Bates. That's why when you said Catherine, I panicked.
Okay.
So Catherine was born in Falmouth, Massachusetts, August 12th, 1859. So it's funny, going down this rabbit hole looking for Mrs. Claus, I found this most amazing human. So her father was William Bates and her mother was Cornelia Frances Lee. So her father died a few weeks after she was born, and she was mostly raised by her mom and an aunt, both of whom were educated, had graduated from an all-women's college, and believed that women should learn things. And very strange that in the 1850s and 60s. So she grew up and went to Wellesley. Graduated in 1880, and she became a high school teacher between 1880 and 1885. So, 1889, she wrote a young adult novel called Rose and Thorn. She won a prize awarded by the Congregational Sunday School and Publishing Society. So what she did, it's kind of, we're on similar pages here today. It incorporated poor and working class women as characters to teach readers about social reform. Right?
Oh, okay. I love this.
So she also wrote a poem, and this is the only connection to Mrs. Claus, but I'm just connecting it anyways because I wanna. Her poem, quote, it was called Goody Santa Claus on a Sleigh Ride, from a collection called Sunshine and Other Verses for Children. This was also in 1889. So the Mrs. Claus character was the chief organizer of Christmas Eve. So in her Santa Claus theories, Mrs. Claus ran it all. Mrs. Claus was like CEO. And she was like, honey, go deliver these presents immediately. And he's like, what? Okay, get the reindeer. Rudolph's in front. Okay, Rudolph's in front. Did you get it? Okay, go. Be home by morning. Okay, bye. So
I love that.
I really like her for that. Good job. So she took advantage of new educational opportunities available to women after the Civil War. So isn't it weird when you read about like it's all like there's a Civil War happening, but all this other stuff?
Yeah. Yep. People still living their lives. Yeah.
People still living their lives. Like we talked about a woman like going to college in Germany in the 1840s. You could do that. Like there's a Civil War. And she's like writing poems. Now, granted, this is 20, 30 years after the Civil War, but it's just, she was born at the beginning of it. Anyways, So she traveled to England because she got prize money. So she used that money and studied in Oxford from 1890 to 1891. Could you imagine winning a prize for writing a book and that paying for a year at Oxford?
Wow.
Right?
That's exciting too.
That's
awesome.
Exciting
by today's standard. So that'd be exciting.
Right?
Yeah.
And then she returned to Wellesley as an associate professor in 1891, and she earned her MA and was promoted to a full professor of English literature. So then she spent some time teaching English at Colorado College in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Now, whilst she was there, she wrote the first draft of America the Beautiful. It was hastily jotted down in a notebook during the summer of 1893. So this is a quote. She says,
okay.
One day, some of the other teachers and I decided to go on a trip to 14,000-foot Pikes Peak. We hired a prairie wagon. Near the top, we had to leave the wagon and go the rest of the way on mules. I was very tired, but when I saw the view, I felt great joy. All the wonder of America seemed displayed there with the sea-like expanse. Now, why do I love her? I'm going to keep talking, so I will explain. Okay. Her inspiration was the fact that she had dealt with sexism because, she saw the destruction the Industrial Revolution brought to both America and to Britain, and she had seen poverty and misery firsthand, and she truly wished for equality. It was this dream, this feeling, this need for equal rights of an all-inclusive egalitarian society that inspired the poem that now, like, maybe triggers me a little when I see the wrong people singing the song, you know.
Yes.
Right? Yes. So I'm bringing it back. That was written for every human in this country. Okay?
So you're bringing decency back?
I'm bringing decency back. Okay.
Yes. And empathy.
You're welcome. Yep. Mm-hmm. Because
you're doing it all by yourself.
I'm exhausted.
Let's be clear.
Okay. But listen, someone's got to do it, and it's me, obviously. So
exactly. Yep.
Here I am. You all can thank me with like dark chocolate. It's delicious. Okay.
Yes, it's Christmas, so it's
Christmas, and that's where my brain is at.
Yep. Chocolate's always welcomed.
Anytime, but I do prefer dark. Right? Just to be clear.
See, I like milk.
I don't know why we're friends. It's
yeah, I don't know because it's dark. I mean, I do like dark chocolate on people's.
Okay, right?
Okay. It's like, calm down, girl.
Different flavors of dark chocolate, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I was going to say a little caramel, but I don't know what I mean by that. I was going to be like a little caramel, but then like, I don't know what I feel like I'm insinuating
don't
something.
Go there. We'll
but
get
I don't know what
okay?
I'm insinuating. Okay.
You know how the internet is. How dare she say that? What does caramel mean? That's
like, I don't know.
Bigotry.
Internet. I literally don't know.
Turns out candy. That's sugar bigotry. I don't know. What. Somebody made something up.
Yes, I mean, well. Stay off the internet till January, y'all.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So she wrote it during the severe economic depression of 1893. Did you know that happened? It did happen.
No, I did not.
Yeah. And it was first appeared in print in the Congregationalist, which was a weekly journal for Independence Day in 1895. It reached a wider audience when her revision of it, there's a transcript on November 19th, 1904. The final expanded version was written in 1913 when a version appeared in her collection, America the Beautiful and Other Poems. A reviewer, right, from the New York Times wrote this, quote, "We intend no derogation to Miss Katherine Lee Bates when we say that she is a good minor poet." End quote. Thanks, New York Times.
They just had to put the minor in there.
Well, it's because she has boobs. I mean, What are you going to do? Right. So November 11th, 1918, a battalion known as the Yankee Division of the U.S. Army sang America the Beautiful upon hearing the announcement of the armistice. And that's the one that stuck. There were other songs, but that was one that stuck.
Gotcha.
So near the end of the Spanish-American War, she worked as a war correspondent for the New York Times and strove to reduce widely circulating negative stereotypes about Spaniards. She contributed regularly to periodicals, sometimes under the pseudonym James Lincoln, including the Atlantic Monthly, the Congregationalist, Boston Evening Transcript, Christian Century, Contemporary Verse, Lippincott's, and The Delineator. I really like the name The Delineator.
Yeah, I was wondering. I was like, "Wow, she's been writing a lot," but she wrote on her pseudonym that sounded like a male.
Right.
Oh.
Right.
Okay. Smart.
Because
she's a smart cookie.
Mm-hmm.
She wouldn't have been published.
I mean, some would have maybe.
Yeah, but she wouldn't
mostly
have been able to
no.
rack up. Yeah.
Yeah, she couldn't get.
Especially not war correspondences. A woman's lady brain can conceive of war.
I mean, stay home and knit or something. Stop it.
Yes.
I mean, honestly, stay home and make the babies. Thank you. So, so she was a social activist, and she focused in all of her writings, right, on the struggles of women, of workers, people of color, tenement residents, immigrants, and poor people. She helped organize the Denison House, which was a college women's settlement house with other women friends and colleagues in 1892. Okay, so I'm skipping around a little bit.
Yeah, okay.
So in 1906, she and her brother Arthur bought a house together. They both signed the mortgage for a lot and house, so like a lot and a house, right? You did both. And it was said to be for the entire family and tenants. Now, one of her tenants was a woman named Catherine Corman. Now, she was also on the faculty of Wellesley College, and they also traveled together on occasion. They don't know the nature of the relationship, and they're like discussing it. Okay, for many decades. It was the subject of discussion, which is kind of weird because if everyone could just be who they are, we could like focus on like world peace as opposed to was she lesbian or not? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because like now you can just be like, I'm a lesbian. Moving right along, you know.
And also back then, I mean, men were under the scrutiny too. Like if you got a certain age and you were not married, what's wrong with you?
Yep.
You know, but it's like, marriage is hard. I mean, we see how it worked out for Catherine Dickens. So.
Yeah, it's a bad idea, honestly.
Yeah.
Right. But also, like, who cares? Maybe they were just friends. Yeah.
That was the height of, I mean, even now people want to be in your business, but now they use it for entertainment. But people always want to be in people's marriges.
Yeah, that's true.
Business.
Yeah.
It's true. Like, what's going on? It's like, you never know what's going on, and stop being nosy.
Leave me alone. So there are diaries she wrote as an adult and letters that have survived that conclude she had warm friendships with several female peers because you can be friends with women without having sex with them. And she also had intense involvement with two men, Oscar Triggs, who she met at Oxford, and after that, this is a great name, Theophilus Huntington Root. Yes.
Wow.
Theophilus.
Darling. I think I need to name my cat, my dog named Theophilus.
Theophilus.
I mean, there's a Mr. Mistopheles from Cats,
that's true. Theophilus and Mistopheles. Yeah, it's definitely cats.
Yeah.
I could start singing this song, but we can't afford it.
Oh, we won't do that. Theophilus. I like that.
So she never married because she didn't want to lose her tenure track at Wellesley. And she would have.
A husband would be like, you need to stay home and have babies now.
Exactly.
Or stay home and cook and or order the servants around. It would have been like, that's a nice, oh dear, you were a professor. That's nice.
That's
Now go home
lovely,
and do real
darling.
work.
That's lovely. Oh, she's very smart. She will teach her young children well until we send them off to boarding school for their actual education. But,
Exactly.
But remember, she grew up with a mom and a grandmother that they were alone and relatively independent because the husband had died. But she saw that and was like, I would like that. Thank you very much.
I could do what I want to do.
She was apparently very torn up when Theophilus, great name, ended. The relationship with him ended. And she had a period of suicidal depression after that. But she also destroyed most of the letters that Catherine Coleman and her wrote to each other. So you're like, oh no, what was it? Like maybe she's bisexual. Who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Maybe, who knows? Maybe they had a falling out and she was pissed.
And she being a writer know that people are nosy. So destroy the evidence if you don't want people to know stuff.
I mean, right. Exactly. Like, it just like, I don't know. There were laws against homosexuality.
Yeah,
she didn't
exactly.
Want to fuck it up. Because even if that wasn't, people would read into it and then they'd like burn you at the fucking stake. So like, fuck that, And she was
she was a professor, so you want to keep maintain your reputation too.
She does say about Coleman, there's one letter survived that said, well, like a few that said to the other Catherine, quote, "You are always in my heart and in my longings. It was a living away from you that made, at first, the prospect of leaving Wellesley so heartachy, and it seemed least of all possible when I had just found the long desire way to your dearest heart." Yeah, I think they had a relationship, but like good on her to like live her life, make really deep human connections. A lot of marriages are not deep human connections. They're deals.
I mean, my other Charles, my other Catherine.
Yeah.
Like they had one and then he decided, nope, sorry, psych.
Yeah. I mean.
And yeah.
It's not, I love, as she lived, like talk about living authentically. She also wrote and spoke extensively about the need for social reform and was an advocate for global peace movement that emerged after World War I. So she was actively involved in establishing the League of Nations. She was pissed at Wilson for not supporting the League of Nations. There's so many reasons to be pissed at Wilson, but that's a good one too.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
I have better ones, but that's a good one.
Yeah.
She fought against isolationism. And she left the Republican Party because she felt like they were turning the wrong way. You want to talk about that? Or no, we'll just like let that sit.
No, we'll let that. It's the holidays.
It's the holidays.
Cheer joy.
Jingle bells, jingle bells. Okay. So she retired from Wellesley in 1925 at the age of 66. In retirement, she continued to write and publish poetry, and she was in great demand as a writer and a speaker. She died in Wellesley, Massachusetts on March 28th, 1929, while listening to a friend read poetry to her. She is buried in Falmouth, Massachusetts.
Well, she died pretty young.
She died young. She died too young.
I mean, but she died just in time before the crash, right? Or maybe it was that year.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So. Yeah.
Wow.
So I just want to end saying in 2017 biography of her, Melinda M. Ponder describes her as an independent-minded social activist who set an example for women's intellectualism and independence in the late 1800s. Okay.
Wow.
I love her.
That is fantastic. I love, love, love The Tale of Two Catherines.
The Tale of Two Catherines. Also Mrs. Claus. I call her Mrs. Claus because she's my kind of Mrs. Claus. Like, yes, Mrs. Claus. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's how it was. That's what I'm going to teach the young kiddies.
Yeah, that's what happened. She organized the whole situation. Everyone had a job to do. Husband, go. Give gifts, elves, make gifts. Cool. You got cookies, you got milk. Let's go.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for that. That was beautiful. That's happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Well, on that note,
yes.
let's You're so silly. I love it. That's why we're friends.
Yeah.
On that note, that wraps up the latest episode of Notorious Women podcast. Guys, remember to follow us on all the things, but also copy the link for our podcast and send it to your friends.
Yes.
Don't tell them about it. Just copy the link and send it to them. You can also support the show on patreon.com. Go to patreon.com/notoriouswomen. That's patreon.com/notoriouswomen. Tell your friends about us. Spread the word. Spread the good cheer this holiday season. Hopefully you learned something today.
It's a free gift to give your friends. Yeah.
I like how you think. I like how you think.
I have a gift for you.
Now, Miriam.
Yeah.
I love that. I have a gift for you, and then paste the link.
Yes, here is the gift.
Done.
The gift of joy. The gift of Lavetta and Miriam. Oh, wow.
Exactly.
Narcissistic,
now, how
anyone?
else can they support?
Yeah. They can also come to our Instagram. Please follow us, like us. You can DM us there. It is Notorious Women Podcast. Listen, I've posted some fun things. My favorite, which is Sandra Lee's Hanukkah cake. You guys, it's so funny because later I will post when she makes her Kwanzaa cake. Yes, she really understands us. She understands us so well. Anyways, listen, someone else probably wrote it for her. I feel a little bad. She's probably a nice person, but my God, please do not put wire in a cake. Anyways, so that's Notorious Women Pod. Yeah, no, Lavetta hasn't seen it yet. You should go on our on our Instagram.
Yes.
Also, TikTok, Notorious Women Podcast. DM us, please, at Instagram or email us at notoriouswmpod@gmail.com. We also have a YouTube channel. You can listen to episodes on our YouTube channel if that's easier for you. And that is Notorious Women Podcast on the YouTube channel. We took all the Notorious Women Podcast title and kept it for ourselves.
Yes. That is right. Thank you guys for joining us as always, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.